Have you ever felt the sting of rejection so deeply that it seemed to define your worth? Do you sometimes wonder why certain people ignore you, no matter how hard you try to earn their approval? Have you noticed that society teaches us to chase acceptance, when perhaps the real power lies in embracing rejection instead? What if I told you that being overlooked, ignored, or rejected could become your greatest advantage in life? Today, we're exploring the profound art of turning rejection into your most powerful ally, drawing wisdom from the timeless philosophy of Stoicism, particularly the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered emperor philosophers. In this transformative journey, we'll uncover 15 powerful lessons that will forever change how you view rejection. These aren't just philosophical concepts, but practical strategies you can implement immediately to reclaim your power and redirect your energy toward true growth. Before we dive into these life-changing lessons, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people discover this wisdom, and it signals to YouTube that you're finding value in what we're sharing. Now, let's begin our journey toward mastering the art of using rejection to your advantage. Lesson number 1: embrace indifference. When someone decides you're not worth their time or attention, your instinctive response might be to try harder to prove your worth. But consider this alternative: what if you matched their indifference with your own? This isn't about being petty. It's about preserving your dignity and reclaiming your power. Imagine a colleague repeatedly excludes you from important conversations. Rather than desperately trying to insert yourself, redirect that energy toward your own growth and contributions. By choosing not to chase their approval, you make a powerful statement about your self-worth. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." When you respond to indifference with calm detachment rather than desperate pursuit, you demonstrate true strength of character. This approach requires practice. When you feel the sting of being ignored, pause and remind yourself that your value isn't determined by others' perception. Focus your attention on those who appreciate you and on pursuits that fulfill you. Build a fortress of self-respect that no external validation can shake. Remember, choosing indifference isn't about creating distance out of spite, but about creating space for your own peace and growth. In this space, you'll find that what once seemed like rejection was merely redirecting you toward more meaningful connections and opportunities. Lesson number 2: master emotional control. When rejection strikes, our emotions often surge like a tidal wave, threatening to sweep away our dignity and clarity. Yet, the Stoics understood that our power lies not in eliminating these feelings, but in choosing how we respond to them. Picture this: someone you respect ignores your message or dismisses your idea in a meeting. Your heart races, your face flushes, and inside a storm brews. This is where the practiced Stoic pauses, breathes, and asks, "Why am I allowing someone else's actions to dictate my emotional state?" Epictetus taught, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." Your emotions are within your power, while others' behaviors are not. When you feel that initial sting of rejection, acknowledge it without judgment, then consciously choose your response. This isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending to be unaffected. It's about creating space between stimulus and response. Feel the emotion, but don't let it hijack your actions. Remain polite and composed, not as a performance for others, but as a gift to yourself. Practicing this emotional discipline transforms rejection from a crushing blow into a strengthening exercise. Each time you respond with measured calm, rather than reactive emotion, you build resilience that will serve you in every area of life. Remember, the person who maintains composure in the face of rejection demonstrates not weakness, but remarkable strength. They show that their inner peace is too valuable to surrender to external circumstances. Lesson number 3, practice mental detachment. The mind tends to cling to rejection, replaying the scene and magnifying the pain. Stoicism offers a powerful alternative. The practice of mental detachment, where you acknowledge what happened without allowing it to consume your thoughts. When someone dismisses or overlooks you, your mind might create elaborate narratives about why it happened, what it means about you, and how you should respond. These thought spirals rarely serve you. Instead, practice observing these thoughts without attaching to them. Marcus Aurelius advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This mental discipline allows you to experience rejection without being defined by it. To practice this detachment, engage fully in present moment activities that demand your attention. Immerse yourself in meaningful work, physical exercise, creative pursuits, or genuine conversations with supportive friends. These aren't mere distractions, but redirections of your mental energy toward what truly matters. Consider developing a meditation practice focused on observing your thoughts without judgment. When rejection-related thoughts arise, acknowledge them gently, then return your focus to your breath or a chosen mantra. Over time, you'll find these thoughts lose their grip on you. The goal isn't to never think about rejection, but to transform your relationship with these thoughts. When you can observe them with curiosity rather than attachment, you've mastered a profound form of freedom, the ability to experience rejection without being diminished by it. Lesson number 4, showcase your excellence. When faced with rejection, the natural impulse might be to retreat. However, the Stoic approach invites you to do something counterintuitive. Use this moment to demonstrate your value, not out of spite, but from a place of authentic self-confidence. Imagine being overlooked for a promotion or excluded from a social gathering. Rather than dwelling in resentment, channel that energy into honoring your skills or developing new ones. This isn't about proving others wrong, but about proving to yourself what you're capable of achieving. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." When rejection tests your resilience, respond by embracing challenges that showcase your capabilities. Take on that project no one else wants, volunteer for that presentation, or share your knowledge generously. This approach works because excellence speaks for itself. While words can be dismissed, consistent high-quality actions create an undeniable presence. Your work becomes your voice, communicating your value more eloquently than any self-promotion could. Remember, this isn't about seeking validation from those who rejected you. It's about recognizing that rejection often creates space for growth that wouldn't have occurred otherwise. Many great innovations and personal transformations have emerged from the fertile ground of rejection. By focusing on your excellence rather than others' approval, you reclaim your power and often discover strengths you didn't know you possessed. In time, you might even find yourself grateful for the rejection that catalyzed your growth. Lesson number 5, create meaningful distance. Sometimes, the wisest response to rejection is to create space between yourself and the source of that rejection. This isn't about running away, but about strategic withdrawal to protect your energy and refocus your attention. When someone consistently overlooks your contributions or treats you with indifference, continuing to seek their approval can become an emotional drain. The Stoic approach is to recognize when a particular relationship or situation no longer serves your growth and well-being. Epictetus taught, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. This humorous perspective reminds us not to overvalue others' opinions. Creating distance might mean limiting communication to essential matters, declining optional interactions, or in some cases, completely removing yourself from the relationship. This boundary setting isn't punishment, it's protection, preserving your energy for relationships and pursuits that nurture you. Use this distance constructively. Redirect your attention toward people who value your presence and contributions. Cultivate new connections and deepen existing supportive relationships. Invest in your personal growth through learning, creative expression, or physical wellness. When you choose to create distance from those who don't appreciate you, you simultaneously create space for more meaningful connections to enter your life. What initially feels like loss often reveals itself as liberation. Lesson number 6. Transcend the need for approval. Perhaps the most powerful response to rejection is to examine and release your attachment to others' approval. This deep inner work transforms not just how you respond to rejection, but your entire relationship with yourself and others. We're conditioned from childhood to seek external validation, to measure our worth through others' responses to us. Yet the Stoics understood that true freedom comes from recognizing that your value is inherent, not contingent on others' perceptions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." This profound observation invites us to question why we often trust others' assessments more than our own. To transcend the need for approval, begin by becoming aware of when you're seeking it. Notice the subtle ways you might adjust your behavior, appearance, or opinions to please others. Then gently ask yourself, what would I do or say if I weren't concerned about their reaction? Practice validating yourself. Acknowledge your efforts, celebrate your progress, and comfort yourself during setbacks. Become your own most reliable source of recognition and encouragement. This doesn't mean becoming insensitive to feedback or dismissive of others' perspectives. Rather, it means developing the discernment to consider external input without being controlled by it. You can value connection without requiring approval. As you practice this self-reliance, rejection loses its sting. When someone withholds their approval, you can respond with genuine equanimity because you no longer need what they're withholding. This is true freedom. Lesson number 7, cultivate meaningful joys. When rejection leaves a void, resist the temptation to fill it with distraction or isolation. Instead, intentionally engage with activities and people that bring you genuine fulfillment and growth. Rejection often triggers withdrawal, tempting us to nurse our wounds in solitude. While reflection has its place, extended isolation can reinforce negative thought patterns. The Stoic approach is to actively engage with life's meaningful pleasures, not as escape, but as affirmation. Seneca advised, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." The same applies to the sting of rejection. Rather than reacting immediately, channel your energy into pursuits that connect you with your authentic self and others who appreciate you. Explore activities that challenge and absorb you, whether physical, intellectual, creative, or social. These might include hiking in nature, learning a new skill, creating art, or engaging in deep conversation with trusted friends. The key is to choose activities that engage you fully, bringing you into a state of flow. Remember that joy isn't merely pleasure, but engagement with what makes life meaningful. By pursuing activities aligned with your values, you remind yourself of who you are beyond others' perceptions. This approach isn't about pretending rejection doesn't hurt. It's about refusing to let that hurt define your experience. You acknowledge the pain while simultaneously affirming that your capacity for joy remains intact, independent of others' responses to you. When you consistently choose meaningful engagement over rumination, you transform rejection from a dead end into a detour that leads to unexpected discoveries about yourself and what truly matters to you. Lesson number 8, redefine your social circle. Rejection provides a valuable opportunity to reassess and intentionally cultivate your social environment. By focusing on quality relationships rather than seeking universal approval, you create a foundation of authentic connection that supports your growth. When someone withdraws their attention or approval, it can feel like a diminishment of your social standing. Yet the Stoics would view this as a clarifying moment, revealing where your energy is best invested. Epictetus observed, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." This wisdom invites us to be selective about our social circles, prioritizing depth and alignment over breadth and convenience. Begin by identifying the relationships in your life that consistently leave you feeling energized, understood, and inspired. These are your core connections, worthy of your time and emotional investment. Nurture these relationships through regular, meaningful interaction. Simultaneously, consider the relationships that consistently drain you or reinforce negative patterns. This isn't about judging others, but about recognizing compatibility and honoring your needs. Gradually adjust these relationships, either by transforming the dynamic or creating appropriate distance. Expand your circle intentionally by engaging with communities aligned with your values and interests. Whether through volunteer work, classes, or interest groups, seek environments where authentic connection naturally develops. Remember that meaningful connection isn't measured by quantity, but by quality. A few deeply supportive relationships contribute more to your well-being and resilience than numerous superficial ones. By curating your social environment with intention, you create space for connections that truly matter. Lesson number 9. Maintain dignified silence. There is profound power in choosing silence when faced with rejection or indifference. Not the tense silence of suppressed emotion, but the composed silence of self-possession and inner strength. When someone ignores or dismisses you, your immediate impulse might be to speak up, to defend yourself, or to seek explanation. Yet often, these reactions stem from insecurity rather than genuine need. The Stoic approach offers an alternative, strategic silence. Marcus Aurelius counseled, "Be silent for the most part, or if you speak, say only what is necessary and in a few words." This wisdom is particularly valuable when emotions run high, as they often do following rejection. This silence isn't passive or fearful, but actively chosen from a place of self-respect. It communicates that you value yourself too highly to engage in desperate attempts to be seen or heard. It preserves your dignity while preventing you from words or actions you might later regret. Practice this silence not as punishment to others, but as protection for yourself. Use this space to observe your thoughts and feelings without immediately acting on them. Notice how initial reactions often give way to more measured responses when given time. Remember that silence creates space that others often feel compelled to fill. By resisting the urge to explain, justify, or pursue, you often elicit more authentic responses from others. This patience frequently reveals information and dynamics that might otherwise remain hidden. This dignified silence isn't merely the absence of words, but the presence of inner composure. It's a statement of self-possession that often communicates more powerfully than any verbal response could. Lesson number 10. Embody authentic confidence. True confidence isn't the absence of rejection, but the ability to maintain your sense of self-worth regardless of external responses. By developing this inner stability, You transform how rejection affects you. Many confuse confidence with never experiencing rejection. But genuine confidence is much more valuable. It's the resilience to face rejection without being diminished by it. This quality emerges not from avoiding challenging situations, but from navigating them while staying true to yourself. Epictetus taught, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." When it comes to rejection, you can't control whether others accept or value you, but you can control how you carry yourself before, during, and after these experiences. Authentic confidence begins with self-knowledge. Understand your values, strengths, and areas for growth without exaggeration or self-deprecation. This honest self-assessment provides a stable foundation that external opinions cannot easily shake. Practice speaking and acting from this place of self-knowledge, even when it feels vulnerable. Express your ideas clearly, take reasonable risks, and offer your unique perspective without apologizing for its existence. This isn't about being loud or dominant, but about being genuinely present. When rejection occurs, acknowledge any disappointment without questioning your fundamental worth. Remind yourself that rejection is about fit, timing, or subjective preference, not about your inherent value as a person. As you practice these behaviors consistently, you'll notice something remarkable. Rejection becomes less threatening. You can encounter it without spiraling into self-doubt, recognizing it as information about a specific situation rather than a verdict on your worth. Lesson number 11. Respond with unexpected kindness. Perhaps the most counterintuitive response to rejection is to meet it with genuine kindness. Not the forced pleasantry of someone trying to prove something, but the natural kindness that flows from understanding and inner security. When someone treats you with indifference or outright rejection, they likely expect defensiveness, withdrawal, or hostility in return. By choosing kindness instead, you disrupt this pattern and reclaim your agency in the interaction. Marcus Aurelius advised, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, 'The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, so I can understand the nature of the erring. They are not enemies, they are just misguided.'" This perspective allows you to respond with compassion rather than reactivity. Perhaps the person rejecting you is struggling with their own insecurities, pressures, or limited perspectives. This doesn't excuse hurtful behavior, but it helps you respond constructively rather than escalating negativity. In practice, this might mean offering a genuine compliment to someone who's been dismissive, helping a colleague who's excluded you, or simply maintaining polite, professional interactions without the edge of resentment. These actions aren't about winning approval, but about living according to your values regardless of how others behave. Remember that this approach requires emotional boundaries. Kindness doesn't mean allowing others to take advantage of you or accepting mistreatment. Rather, it means choosing responses that reflect who you want to be, not who others expect you to be. This response often has unexpected effects. Sometimes it transforms the relationship as the other person recognizes and respects your emotional maturity. Even when it doesn't change their behavior, it prevents rejection from hardening into bitterness within you, preserving your capacity for connection and joy. Lesson number 12, transform your self-narrative. The stories we tell ourselves about rejection shape our experience more powerfully than the rejection itself. By consciously reframing these narratives, you can transform rejection from a painful endpoint into a meaningful turning point. When rejection occurs, our minds quickly construct explanations, usually centered on personal inadequacy. I wasn't good enough. "There must be something wrong with me," or "No one will ever truly value me." These interpretations feel like reality, but they're actually stories we're telling ourselves. Epictetus reminds us, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." The rejection is the event, but your interpretation determines its impact on your life and well-being. Practice noticing these automatic narratives and gently questioning them. Is this interpretation factually accurate, or is it an assumption? Are there alternative explanations that might be equally or more valid? How might this situation look from a different perspective? Then, consciously create more empowering interpretations. Perhaps this rejection is redirecting you toward better opportunities, revealing important information about compatibility, or challenging you to grow in valuable ways. These alternatives aren't mere positive thinking, they're equally valid interpretations that better serve your development. Document this process in a journal, noting both your initial reactions and your revised interpretations. Over time, you'll develop the ability to shift your narratives more quickly and naturally, reducing the time spent in unproductive thought patterns. Remember that reframing isn't about denying disappointment or pretending rejection feels good. It's about contextualizing these experiences within a larger narrative of growth and purpose, where even painful experiences contribute meaningfully to your journey. Lesson number 13, use rejection as data. Rather than viewing rejection as a judgment to be feared or a wound to be nursed, consider it valuable information that can guide your decisions and growth. This analytical approach transforms rejection from an emotional setback into a strategic advantage. When someone rejects or ignores you, beneath the emotional response lies potentially useful data. Perhaps there's a misalignment of values, a communication gap, or an opportunity for skill development. By approaching rejection with curiosity rather than defensiveness, you can extract these insights. Seneca noted, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Rejection often closes one door while revealing others you hadn't previously considered. The key is to look for these openings rather than staring at the closed door. Start by asking yourself neutral, information-gathering questions. What can I learn from this experience? What patterns might this reveal? What adjustments might improve future outcomes? These questions shift you from victim to investigator, empowering you to derive value from the experience. This approach doesn't deny the emotional impact of rejection, but it prevents those emotions from being the end of the story. You acknowledge the disappointment while simultaneously seeking the lesson, the redirection, or the growth opportunity embedded within it. Over time, this practice builds resilience by transforming how you perceive rejection. Rather than dreading it as a devastating blow, you come to see it as one of many forms of feedback that inform your journey. This shift doesn't just help you cope with rejection, it actually reduces its power to disrupt your well-being. Remember that the most successful people in any field have typically faced more rejection than others, not because they're worse, but because they take more risks and persist through feedback that would stop others. By viewing rejection as data rather than definition, you join their ranks. Lesson number 14, preserve your inner fortress. The Stoics viewed the mind as a fortress that must be protected from external threats, including the painful impact of rejection. By strengthening this inner sanctuary, you develop the ability to face rejection without being destabilized by it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This insight is particularly relevant when dealing with rejection, where negative thought patterns can quickly undermine your sense of self and purpose. Begin by becoming aware of how rejection affects your thought patterns. Notice when experience or anticipation of rejection triggers thoughts of inadequacy, catastrophizing, or harsh self-judgment. These patterns, left unchecked, can breach your inner fortress and compromise your well-being. Develop daily practices that strengthen your mental foundations. Meditation, journaling, and intentional exposure to wisdom literature all contribute to mental resilience. These aren't merely coping mechanisms, but proactive investments in your psychological infrastructure. During periods of rejection, be especially vigilant about your mental diet. Limit exposure to negative influences that reinforce insecurity or comparison. Instead, surround yourself with perspectives that remind you of your inherent worth and the larger context of your life journey. Remember that preserving your inner fortress doesn't mean isolation or emotional suppression. Rather, it means creating emotional boundaries that allow you to engage fully with life while preventing external circumstances from determining your internal state. As you strengthen this practice, you'll notice a profound shift. Rejection still occurs, but its power to penetrate your core sense of self diminishes. You experience it as an external event rather than an internal definition, preserving your capacity for peace and purposeful action regardless of others' responses. Lesson number 15: Embrace natural transitions. Nature teaches us that endings are essential for new beginnings. By viewing rejection through this lens of natural transition rather than personal failure, you align yourself with life's fundamental rhythms of change and renewal. When a relationship, opportunity, or chapter of life ends through rejection, it can feel like an unnatural rupture, something that shouldn't have happened. Yet the Stoics understood that change, including endings, is the only constant in life. Resistance to this truth creates suffering. Seneca observed, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Just as autumn's falling leaves create space for spring's new growth, rejection often clears the way for opportunities and connections better aligned with your authentic path. Practice consciously releasing what rejection has taken, not with resentment, but with acknowledgement that its season has passed. This might involve rituals of completion, expressions of gratitude for what was gained, or symbolic actions that honor the transition. Simultaneously, attune yourself to new possibilities emerging in the space created by what has ended. These might appear as subtle intuitions, unexpected connections, or renewed energy for previously unconsidered directions. Approach these openings with curious attention rather than clinging to what was lost. Remember that natural transitions involve grief, even when they're ultimately beneficial. Allow yourself to feel sadness for what has ended without interpreting these feelings as evidence that something is wrong. They are simply part of the natural cycle of attachment and release. As you practice embracing natural transitions, rejection becomes less a personal affront and more a recognized part of life's constant renewal. This perspective doesn't eliminate disappointment, but it contextualizes it within a larger rhythm that ultimately serves your growth and authentic expression. Throughout human history, the most remarkable achievements and deepest wisdom have often emerged from experiences of rejection. What initially appears as a painful exclusion frequently reveals itself as a necessary redirection toward your truest path. As you implement these 15 Stoic lessons, you'll discover that rejection's power over you diminishes while your inner strength grows. You'll find yourself responding to life's inevitable no's with greater equilibrium, creativity, and self-possession. Remember that mastering this art is a practice, not a perfection. There will be moments when rejection still stings sharply, when old patterns resurface. Treat these occasions with the same compassion and wisdom you're developing toward external circumstances, recognizing them as opportunities to deepen your practice. If you found value in these insights, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps this wisdom reach others who might benefit from it. Share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you're applying these principles in your own life. Until next time, remember that rejection isn't your enemy, but your teacher. Every no you receive is potentially guiding you toward a more authentic yes, if you have the wisdom to see it. Stay strong, stay stoic, and transform every rejection into your advantage.